Happy Wednesday, everyone. John Lorden here, and we've got some big updates to talk about this week here on the channel. Thank you so much for joining me to go through these together. First of all, last week we were asking the question and getting the latest information about the family that went hiking in California. Jonathan Gerrish and Ellen Chung, their daughter and their dog, all found deceased on their hike. Were we getting any closer to answers? Felt like last week we were getting nowhere. We were getting more things ruled out, not a whole lot left to look at except for two possibilities: the toxic algae bloom situation or heat. And this week we have the official conclusion from the authorities on this. So let's go ahead and take a look at this together. Starting at the New York Times, after a 2-month effort to find out what killed Jonathan Gerrish, Ellen Chung, their 1-year-old daughter Michu, and their dog Oski, investigators pointed to 109-degree heat and a lack of water. New information that we had on that. We know that they were carrying a Camelback and that the contents were being tested. What we didn't hear previously was it seems like that Camelback was actually empty. They had already gone through all their water. They were still at least 1.5 miles from getting back to their vehicle. Of course, from the start, we did have authorities talking about the temperatures out there that day. They were saying it was somewhere between 107 to 109. And it seems like that is the official conclusion at this point. When search teams found the bodies of Jonathan Gerrish and Ellen Chung, along with that of their daughter Michu, on the morning of August 17th, they had no water on them, Jeremy Brees, the Mariposa County Sheriff, said during a news conference. Sheriff Brees said that an 85-ounce, so there's another answer to a question we brought up last week. They had an 85-ounce model of Camelback. The water bladder that the family had been carrying was empty. Now, they still did tests on it, and tests for that turned back that there was no algae that was found in there as well. So, you know, you might theorize that as they were going, if they ran out of water on their hike at some point, maybe they thought to try to refill it somewhere, and then would that water source be contaminated? Doesn't seem like that's part of this situation either. Heat-related deaths are extremely difficult to investigate, Sheriff Brees said. Our office received an overwhelming number of tips, suggestions, and investigative requests that were all reviewed and taken into consideration. We're confident in our findings. Another factor here, there was no cell phone service for the family, and it says they were also carrying snacks and baby formula. Apparently that baby formula was also checked for any contaminants. Nothing was found in the baby formula as well. Sheriff Brees said that water samples taken from several locations along the river tested positive for anatoxin A, a type of toxin created naturally by blue-green algae, but that there was no evidence that the family members had ingested the water. Small consideration to keep into play here. You know, we were looking at information from an algae expert last week who says he thinks that if there was this type of poisoning, you wouldn't even be able to detect it because essentially it doesn't stay in the cells very long. But we got to go with the officials here. I have to believe that they pulled out all the resources they could. This was such a mysterious occurrence, and this is the official conclusion. And that conclusion is hyperthermia. Hypothermia, also known as overheating, is a condition in which an individual's body temperature is elevated beyond normal due to failed thermoregulation. The person's body produces or absorbs more heat than it dissipates. When extreme temperature elevation occurs, it becomes a medical emergency requiring immediate treatment to prevent disability or death. Almost 500,000 deaths are recorded every year from hyperthermia. So certainly this is a much easier to believe situation than talking about, you know, toxic algae blooms where we have no confirmed human deaths. Here, 500,000 deaths recorded every year specifically from hyperthermia. And keep in mind, animals regulate their heat differently. They're able to pant, but same thing. I mean, if that core body temperature gets to a point that's elevated enough, they're effectively going to go through the same thing that a human would. So we're having to go with the thought that that is effectively what happened. The questions I have about how the bodies are all found together, the only thing that I can really think of is Maybe there's an emotional component that we don't understand that was going on here as well. The most susceptible person, at least according to the information I've been able to find, was probably Miju. So was there something that happened where Miju maybe passed away and the parents realized it? And maybe there was a breakdown at that point of grief that kept them at a particular location when they were also succumbing to hyperthermia themselves. I think that's the best thing that I can put together to make sense out of having all of them clustered that close together. The family did release a statement. Ellen Chung and Jonathan Gerrish's family speaks out. For Mariposa County, this is rare, said the sheriff. This is the first hypothermia case of death that I've witnessed here in 20 years. And then at the press conference, they had the public information officer read the statement from the family. The loss of a close relative is pain almost beyond words. When that loss is multiplied by 4, and one of that 4 is a baby of just 1 year old, then that pain is indescribable. When that pain is then further impacted by the lack of knowledge and certainty as for reasons for the death, then the question of why, where, and when, and how fill your mind all the days and all the nights. The family's loved ones went on to thank the officials for their tireless work. Quote, "They felt our pain, shared the distress of our loss, and have responded with sympathy, empathy, and a total dedication, trying to find some answers for us. We would like to say a heartfelt thanks for their dedication and commitment. They have truly gone the extra mile. Some questions have been answered, and we will use this information as a way of helping us come to terms with the situation. However, the question of why can never be answered and will remain with us. Our hearts will never forget the beautiful lives of Jonathan, Ellen, Miju, and of course, Oski. When we sit beneath the trees, listening to the wind soaring through the branches, we will hear them and we will remember." This is a tragedy in every sense of the word, but it seems like we've got the official conclusion. The family has some sense of understanding of what happened out there, and a lot of grief to process still around all this. So I'm just thankful to everyone out there that was so kind in the comments, everyone that has cared about this situation, cared about the people that are going through this pain. Sometimes these stories don't have a big boogeyman to point at, and that is where we landed with this particular instance. Now, what about in the case of Maya Millete? Is there a boogeyman in that instance, and what is going on with it? Missing Maya Millete, husband Larry arrested for murder 9 months after California mom vanished. Guys, it was only a matter of weeks ago that I was talking to Mary Chris, and I was wondering about this possibility. Could there be a no-body homicide prosecution that happens with this case? We were hearing a lot of pieces that were really painting a very dark picture of what happened here. Would that ever be enough for the DA to say, okay, we've got it, let's go ahead and move forward with this? It seems like we've hit that point. And many of the conditions we knew about already. There's a few things in here that I didn't know about previously, so let's get to those together. A flashbang could be heard moments before a SWAT team entered the house, followed by police instructions over a loudspeaker. The FBI then set up a mobile command center right outside the family's home, and this all happened last Tuesday. That would be October 19th. After 67 search warrants, 87 witnesses being interviewed. Here's a quote from Police Chief Roxana Kennedy. "These efforts ultimately generated a variety of pieces of evidence that have become clear and overwhelming. Larry Millete, Maya's husband, is responsible for Maya's murder and disappearance. Larry is now facing charges of murder and illegal possession of an assault weapon, according to San Diego County District Attorney Summer Steffen. One of Larry's weapons, a .40 caliber gun, has still not been recovered by the authorities. Larry had been withdrawing large sums of money from the bank in the days leading up to his arrest. making it look like he was going to flee, according to Billy Little. You might remember Billy Little is the attorney that's been helping the family. He's also the guy, I think, that got into the house, is the one that noticed the patch marks, what he described as fresh patch marks, one in a door and one in a wall. Stefan laid out some of the piece-by-piece circumstantial evidence that law enforcement has gathered over the past 9 months. We're not going to retread. We've talked about this in previous videos. It's all that stuff essentially compiled. But outside of the altar that they have pictured here, which we also did talk about, there's a new piece of info I wasn't aware of. Stefan said that Larry started contacting spellcasters to control Maya's behavior. These spellcasters would be asked to make Maya want to stay in the relationship. But as December of 2020 came, those messages to spellcasters were a lot more threatening. He was asking for May to become incapacitated, for May to be in an accident, to have broken bones so that she could stay at home, thus displaying his homicidal ideations to harm May. So it sounds like they've been talking to these spellcasters, and I'm very curious to see, as this does go to trial, are we going to see people take the witness stand saying that they're spellcasters and what Larry relayed to them? I don't think there's any professional obligation there for them to, no client privilege that would stop them from speaking about this. Another little fact here, in the afternoon of Jan 7th, Larry Millete sent a really telling text. He said, "I think she wants me to snap, and I'm shaking inside, ready to snap," Stefan said. So on top of all the stuff that we've talked about through the multiple episodes previously, a few other very big pieces that can come into play here in a courtroom as well with this non-body homicide. Maya Millete's family praying Larry Millete will lead police to remains. Of course, that's the biggest thing from their perspective. We know how hard Mary Chris and her husband have been working over the past 9 months, searching every possible area that they could think of, trying to find May. Will Larry finally do the right thing and tell them where she's at? Quote, "We're praying he'll do it for his kids, and he'll let them know where mommy is. We believe he's not that evil, and hopefully he'll have a change of heart." I really hope so too. Maya's remains have still not been found despite 9 months of searches by her family, friends, authorities, and community leaders. Back to another quote, this one from Summer Stefan again, the DA. Bringing Maya home to have a proper burial for her family is ongoing. Stefan explained that while the search area is still vast, authorities believe that Maya's remains might be roughly 2.5 hours from the family's home. And here's another little piece of info we didn't have before. Stefan said that Larry entered his home address into his car's entertainment system, I would assume also GPS system, 2.5 hours before he got back home. So they're thinking he went out to a location. Now, that actually leads to a pretty interesting thought, because they've kind of been searching areas where they know that he has gone previously with Maya. But if he needs help driving home from a location and thinking about someone that might be trying to get away with something like this, is there a strong possibility that he just went driving out to a spot that he was completely unfamiliar with? That maybe even if police told him, hey, take us back to the spot, he would have trouble finding at this point. This might be an indicator of that. He's essentially using that car's entertainment system to try to find his way home from wherever he wound up. And keep in mind, of course, we know he doesn't have his cell phone because he left his cell phone at home during this as well. I'm really curious to know more of the details around that, because if he is using some type of GPS system, is there some form of tracking that can come into play with that? I kind of have a feeling it's more like a one-way communication where, but if the GPS is really, like, if it's running directions, you would think there should be some starting indicator that had to be relayed to a server somewhere to say, oh, here's his GPS coordinates for where this trip is starting. Or was that all figured out literally in the dashboard of his car and it's never stored and now it's just all gone? I don't know. It just sounds like there's some other technical aspects, knowing that this is a part of the story now. We know he's punching his home address into that system from some location 2.5 hours away. That's also not to say, I mean, what if he got part of the way home and then he decided he needed help from there? It still could be a perimeter that's larger than 2.5 hours from his house. But this is what the DA's given us in terms of info and their thoughts on it. Now that the DA's office gave us a little more specific area to search, we're all fired up, said Mary Chris. It gave us hope that we'll be able to bring her home. As a matter of fact, since this news has already broke, you know them, they've got searches going. They've already got new efforts mounted around all this. Despite the absence of Maya's remains, the district attorney is confident that her office can prosecute Larry for murder. California law, similar to across the nation, is very clear that we can file murder charges despite not having a body. In fact, the law is so crystal clear that we cannot let someone murder someone and gain a benefit by hiding a body in a way that we can't discover it, Stephan said. There is case law that we will be using in this case that makes it even more clear that a missing body is circumstantial evidence that there was foul play and that it's a murder. That is a really interesting aspect, and I want to see more cases like that go through because I want to see more missing persons cases be looked at through that lens. We just hear far too often on this channel, well, law enforcement doesn't have any reason to assume that there's foul play in this situation. And effectively, what they're doing with this type of case is they're saying, hey, that person missing, that is part of our puzzle. And admittedly, in this case, they've got a lot of pieces already with all the other stuff, the sounds that they recorded from the neighbor's camera that sounds like gunshots, people witnessing what looks like patches in the doors, the guns, the picture of the guns all over the table. I mean, there's a lot of pieces here. They're now adding the fact that she's missing as one of those circumstantial pieces of evidence to push this forward. Literally before I started recording today, an update from Mary Chris was pushed out through the GoFundMe. I just want to share this with you guys. As you all know, this past week has been very challenging for our family. It is bittersweet that my brother-in-law, Maya's husband Larry, was arrested for her murder. The DA revealed some disturbing information, and though it pains us, we are grateful that God is bringing us closer to justice for my sister. We are so blessed to be surrounded by prayer warriors, Team Maya searchers, family, friends, and even strangers with such caring hearts. Thank you all for always lifting us up in our prayers, in your prayers. Thank you all for always lifting us up in prayers, your kind words, and your financial support. God moved a mountain for us this week, but the battle continues. We will need your support now more than ever as we go into court proceedings, while at the same time continue the search for Maya. Recently, we acquired a drone that is ideal for search and rescue. We also purchased more walkie-talkies to allow all searchers to communicate with each other. We have some planned searches in the desert area, and we need your help. We're looking for organizations willing to step up and lead searches. If you know of any organizations, or if you'd like to volunteer as an individual, then please sign up at helpfindmaya.com. Please help us find Maya. Please help us bring Maya home to her 3 beautiful children and to us, her family. From the bottom of our hearts, we, the family of Maya, truly, truly appreciate every single one of you for your help and support. God bless. And of course, we have the links that you need in the description box down below for the website where you can sign up to assist in the search, or knowing this new challenge that they have now of going through this court case, we've got to keep funds going into this GoFundMe. We have to keep Mary Chris and Richard in a position where they can process all of this and still try to do these effective searches that they're doing as well. One more update, something that slipped by me this past summer. I wasn't made aware of it until a caring brain scratcher found it, sent it my way, said, "Hey, John, I don't know if you know about this." We covered the case of Richie Collins, and it was his daughter that actually reached out and asked for help. He went missing in Bellingham, Washington around March of 2019. There has been an update to the missing Richie Collins Facebook page. R.I.P. Richie Collins. I'm so sorry, and I love you. I just got the call. Some of my dad's remains, bones, have been found. His wallet, driver's license, credit cards, military dog tags, and some other things. His gun was found a couple days ago, which led to the search today. I'm so grateful for the search team for their hard work, everyone who has worked my dad's case, and for my family, friends, the Vanished Podcast, David Rose, Q13 News, and John Lorden. Thank you to dozens and dozens of people who have messaged me, shared my dad's posts, and who have truly supported me. There are so many amazing people who have reached out and helped me, and it meant everything to me when at times I felt everything was working against finding my dad. I feel shock and very sad for my dad and my Aunt Bonnie. I feel grateful for everyone who has been there for me, and I feel guilty but relieved I don't have to spend the rest of my life going crazy, not knowing what happened to my dad. Next, we wait for the coroner to confirm. Then, I don't know what's next. Rest in peace, Richie Collins, decorated U.S. Customs and Border Protection Officer with 9 years of service at Northern Land Border Port of Entry, decorated U.S. Army veteran. And to Brittany, we hope that you do find those answers, and we're very sorry for your loss. Thank you for being here with us, everybody. We really appreciate your support as we look into these tough situations and help these families. I can't do it without you guys. Take care. We'll be back on Friday with a brand new episode of Searchlight right here on the Lorden Arts channel.